Welcome to today's panel discussion on advanced process improvements and sustainability in electronics manufacturing assembly. As the electronics industry continues to grow, the need for balanced efficiency with sustainability has never been greater. This session will dive into complex challenges and emerging solutions that are shaping the future of electronics manufacturing today. So welcome to today's panel discussion on advanced process improvement and sustainability in electronics manufacturing. Delighted to be joined by a very influential panel. To my extreme right, we have Keith Bryant from Keith Bryant Consultancy. Next to him, we have Phil Zarro from ITM Consultancy. And to my right, we have Debbie Carboni from Kaizen Corporation. So welcome, lady and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. So let's get right in with our first question, which is what are the key barriers to implementing advanced process improvements that enhance both efficiency and sustainability in electronics manufacturing? So
I guess the biggest barrier is getting companies to implement it, because there's a lot of good stuff out there, but it's always the battle of resistance to change.
It's very true. I mean, engineers are resistant to change. I mean, once they set up a process, they don't like it. You know, they want to keep it the same. And you know, if it's working, don't fix it.
Probably a lack of education on it too. I mean, if you think about it, you'd be becoming familiar. So that combined with, the resistance to implementation makes a really winning combination.
That's a very interesting point you bring up, Phil, and quite a controversial one, because I see a difference between European engineering and the American engineers over here, because of the way that the education system works. For example, in Germany, where they do all this, they have to go through the apprenticeship levels and all the rest of it. They're much more open to looking at new methods and new engineering methods than they are over here. Would you agree?
That's very true. I mean, a lot of our people are scrambling around just trying to find operator level, that rudimentary level of the more advanced stuff. And I think one of the things we need here is more vocational schools, vocational colleges to bring these guys out of.
Right.
So some portions of the United States are better than others, but.
So how much of your job, Debbie, is educating your
99%?
99% of your job?
Approximately, yes. So I actually spend quite a bit of time educating customers, and especially with some of the new regulations that have come about, it's really forced that change to happen, and it's taken back by some resistance for sure. There are some challenges to overcome from a facilities point of view, from a process point of view that tend to be conflicting. And to make things more interesting, we see differences between different continents, different countries, as well as different states and what those regulations are, and having to educate them and help them understand those differences and meet it on a global basis.
Right, of course. And you're working with different regulations in different countries and states as well.
Yes.
That makes it quite challenging. So how are companies addressing the challenges of reducing e-waste, actually, while maintaining performance and innovation? I don't know where this question came in from, but the question is, everybody's looking at sustainability these days, and sustainability is not just making the process and the manufacturing process sustainable, but also the end of life. So how are companies approaching that?
Well, there's a variety of things that I see as a consultant when I go around. The big thing now, which is really taking a life of its own, is repairability or recyclability, or even if you have an end product that you can't completely recycle, at least you can take out some of the parts and maybe use them to make something else.
Yes.
And this is becoming a really strongly driven area. And I don't think it's driven by the companies. I think it's driven by the sustainability movement, let's say. And yeah, that people are getting on board with that quite a lot.
I mean, I was shocked to read a couple of weeks ago that Foxconn published its most recent sustainability numbers, and they're actually achieving 45% of Scope 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I find that almost impossible. I mean, because most companies you talk to, they say, well, Scope 1 and Scope 2, we can, we think we can handle, but Scope 3, which involves getting your partners to comply, is going to be more difficult. But there you go.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you have a view on the sustainability? Movement?
I would just underline what Keith brought up.
Right.
There are some drivers. I think part of it is coming into maybe from, as you're saying, the consumer, the end user. So I'm old. So when I grew up, there were such things as repair shops.
Right.
If an appliance went out, it could be fixed, it could be repaired. And there are still parts of the world where I do see that. But generally, I think in most of Europe, we have, doesn't work, throw it out.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm sure that was one of the drivers with Rojas too.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe they'll redo the repair shops, but I doubt that. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Debbie, you must be getting a lot of challenges from customers. Who are trying to be more sustainable, use more sustainable chemistries, etc.
Yes.
So how do you approach that, or what's your strategy?
Well, there's several different initiatives that I think our industry as a whole is looking at. Some of those are the green screen certified materials. There are several different committees that have looked at safe chemistries. Chem Forward's another one, and others. And what they're doing is working with us as blenders, as chemical manufacturers, to help us learn how those interactions are making an impact on the world.
Right.
The other area that we look at is, the cleaning process, it produces chemistry. It takes energy to run that process.
Yeah.
There's waste that goes into that, and there is time. And so it's looking at how do we minimize the amount of impact we're leaving, that footprint that we're leaving onto the environment, and reduce that by manufacturing and engineering products that are safer,
Right.
that can be run at lower temperatures, at lower concentrations, and be more effective and clean at a faster rate.
But are companies making decisions based on the safe disposal of the waste?
They do make some decisions on the disposal of the waste. What actually is a larger driver right now is the need to meet the compliance. So, there's PFAS. The deadline for the PFAS materials is quickly approaching. And 3M actually did discontinue some of those products. So that has actually pushed people to make almost instantaneous changes in their chemistries moving forward.
Right. Well, you brought out some alternatives, I believe.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we were well ahead of that in the industry because of working with companies like Green Screen and Chem Forward to understand what those regulations are going to be moving forward.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what impact does sustainable material sourcing have in the shift towards greener alternatives? Are you doing, are you actually actively looking for greener sourcing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Looking at it from a global basis, how can we source materials in a manner that is going to leave less impact? It's going to be looking at where the regulations are coming in 5 years from now, what is going to be that impact, and also looking at those interactions and the impact that the wastewater is going to have.
Right. Keith, are you finding on the solder materials and interconnection materials that people are looking at this sustainably, and having more of a sort of, a sustainable approach, looking at the carbon footprint and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, the forward-thinking companies, definitely yes. We go back to the first resistance to change argument for a lot of the others.
Right.
You know, we had some changes in the past where the new chemistry wasn't as good as the old chemistry,
Right.
albeit the old chemistry had been around for a long time and was really horrible and damaging to people. But you know, it was what everybody knew. But I think there's a lot of work going on now to make the chemistries a lot more environmentally friendly, right from where they source the materials to how they dispose of it when we finish using it.
Right. I mean, there's a few companies that are moving into using LTS, low temperature sorters, because yes, they are a little bit cheaper, but also you're using lower processing temperatures,
And less energy,
which is
right.
you're using less energy, a lower carbon footprint, all this type of thing.
Correct.
So you are seeing some examples of that.
I think one of the things that is very apparent is it goes back to one of Phil's comments. It's about education and understanding that when you choose some sustainable products that are going to be helping leave less footprint, there are some give and take, and sometimes there are some trade-offs that, from a technology, from a reliability standpoint, may not quite be there. But through education and also through research and development, we're going to get there.
Yeah.
It's just going to take us some
It's going
time.
to take us some time. Okay. All right. So I know we're all up against the clock here today. So we're going to go to our final question. You just keep it going. Basically, I wanted to look at how the move towards automation and AI-driven analytics is helping to reduce the environmental footprint. I mean, how do you think that's impacting the industry?
It's a little bit like the comment I have about low temperature solder. Most people are using it to fix process issues rather than because it's actually going to save them a little bit of electricity. But AI is a fantastic tool. Everybody was nervous about it at the beginning and said, "No, the robots are going to take over the world."
Yeah.
I think now people have got a bit more of an understanding of the fact that it's a great tool for the engineers to work with. When it's used and managed properly, it's improving yields, it's reducing scrap, it's doing all the things we want to do to be efficient. And if we're as efficient as we can be, then we're essentially as environmentally friendly as we can be, because we're not reworking, we're not making scrap. So
Right.
yeah, it has a huge value in that way. But again, it's almost a byproduct of what it's doing, because people are not looking at AI for sustainability in the first instance, or maybe even the second.
Correct.
But I don't like to call it a byproduct, but yeah, it is another advantage of the technology.
Yeah. So Phil, I'm going to ask Phil a question here. Just so taking up on Keith's comment, are the robots going to take over the world? I mean, Foxconn just opened its 8th lights out factory.
I've heard that, yeah.
In Vietnam.
Yeah.
What do you call it? Is automation in these robots going to take over much of the manufacturing jobs?
I could quote Asimov about robots rules of order, but one of the interesting things is we read the articles, and present companies included, magazines and everything else across the internet, and we see the AI and all this and Industry 4.0, and what I see the reality, people still fighting to sufficiently integrate Industry 3.0.
Yes.
So it's when I see the lights out factory, you go, yeah, that's cool, it's cool, but a lot of us have a long
the
ways
normal
to go.
guys, the little guys down there, it's
Exactly.
no
Yeah, they're
radar.
taking smaller steps though, but
Yeah.
the future, it's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think it complements all the topics we talked about today.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
Last word to you, Debbie.
So interesting. I was at the Women's Leadership Forum on Monday, I guess that was, and we actually invited a lady that serves on that. That's what she does it day in and day out. She had a comment that really struck me. She said, "Our doctors are often making decisions in a bubble. They're not going outside their circle. And what AI is doing is gathering all of that intelligence in many different fashions and helping doctors make better decisions.
Yes.
I'm starting to see those same trends happening in the manufacturing world.
Right.
Companies the larger companies, they are looking at that from an energy standpoint. If I, turn on my machines in these sequences, or I look at my wastewater management or my facility management of utilities. How can I make those decisions? And obviously, they're also starting to look at it from a yields perspective, to your point, where, how can I reduce my defects and improve my productivity?
Right.
But it's at the very beginning stages.
Yeah, well, it's going to gather pace, and I'm afraid they're going to have to catch up, because otherwise, they're going to be
for
overtaken.
sure.
Yeah. Anyway, great debate, guys. I
Great.
know we were all up against time. Keith, you're running off to chair something, so thank you very much for coming in today and standing
Thank you.
in. Thank you very much, Phil Zarrow.
Pleasure,
and
Trevor.
of
Thank
course,
you.
Debbie Carboni.
Thank you, Trevor. Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
thank you to our audience for watching today. Thank you.
Why do something 3 times when you can do it only once? Using N1 Pass technology, BTU's new Profile Tracer is a next-generation thermal profiling tool, providing real-time data acquisition for oven optimization. It identifies inconsistencies due to temperature variables at both the product level and the heat source. Profile Tracer measures dual temperature locations as well as vibration, all in one pass, giving you time to attend the more important things in life.